The government banned mechanically separated beef from the human food supply during the mad cow crisis, decided the bone-scraped paste was too risky to eat, and that ban is still in force today, 20 years later. But mechanically separated chicken faced no such ban, which is why the cheap hot dogs in your cart are built on the exact category of paste that regulators refuse to allow from a different animal. The same machine, the same process, a different species, and a completely different rulebook. The phrase "made with real beef" can legally describe a hot dog that is mostly other things. Pediatricians have identified the hot dog as the single most dangerous choking food for American children, engineered, by accident, into the perfect shape to block a child's airway, and no package warns you. And the word "juicy" on the label frequently describes water and corn syrup, pumped in, weighed, and sold at meat prices, a trick you already know from 3 other files. Americans eat billions of hot dogs a year, 20 billion by the industry's own count, 70 dogs per person, the most eaten and least examined meat product in the country, a food so familiar it became invisible. And tonight, it gets the full file. We're going through 10 hot dog brands and products you should not buy, and 4 that are actually meat. Number 10. Number 10, the made with real beef wording ladder. Start with the vocabulary, because in the hot dog case, every phrase is a legally distinct product, and the industry is betting you can't rank them. At the top sits all beef, a regulated claim. The meat must be beef. No poultry, no pork trim blend. This is what the kosher tradition and the premium brands sell, and it's the reason the kosher hot dog became American shorthand for the honest one. A religious supervision system accidentally functioning as the strictest label law in the case. Centuries of dietary law outperforming decades of federal regulation. One rung down, made with beef, which means beef attended, in any amount, alongside pork, chicken, and the rest of the cast. The word with doing the same tiny crime it commits on made with real cheese crackers and made with whole grains bread, a preposition earning more money per letter than any word in the supermarket. Below that, meat frank, a formulation of pork and beef trimmings in whatever ratio the commodity market favored that quarter. And at the bottom, the franks that don't claim a species at all, just frank or wiener or the cheerfully vague meat wieners. Built substantially on the poultry paste we'll meet properly in the next segment, priced at numbers that should themselves be a disclosure, because $1 for 8 servings of meat is not a bargain, it's a chemistry report. Same shelf, same ketchup, 4 different products, ranked by a vocabulary nobody ever taught you, and priced in a ladder that quietly confesses the recipe. The 80-cent pack was never competing with the $6 pack. It's a different food wearing the same shape, and the shape is the entire disguise, because no other product in the store lets 4 unrelated recipes hide inside one identical silhouette. A steak can't fake being a better steak. A chicken breast is visibly a chicken breast, but an emulsified cylinder in a red and yellow sleeve is a costume that fits anything, which is precisely why the hot dog became the food where the vocabulary does all the work the eye can't. The rule from every file this series has ever made applies double here. The front of the package is a cookout painting, mustard zigzags and cartoon smiles. The species list is on the back, and the word "with" is always a confession. And now, the paste, because the paste has a genuinely dark history the industry survived. Number 9. Mechanically separated meat, and the ban that only covered one animal. Regular viewers met mechanically separated chicken in our chicken file, carcass frames pressed under high pressure through sieves into a smooth pink protein paste. Legal, labeled, and the foundation of the budget hot dog. The hot dog is in fact the paste's single most famous address. The product the phrase mechanically separated chicken was practically invented to describe. Here's the chapter we didn't tell you. Mechanically separated beef used to be in the food supply too, until the mad cow era, when regulators concluded that high-pressure recovery of tissue from beef bones carried unacceptable risk of spreading the agent behind the disease. And in 2004, the USDA banned mechanically separated beef from human food outright, permanently. It is illegal to sell to you today. Sit with the logic of that for a second. The recovery process itself was judged too risky to tolerate for one species, and simultaneously, it remains fully legal for chicken and, within a percentage cap, for pork, Mechanically separated chicken can be used without limit in poultry franks, and mechanically separated pork is permitted up to 20% of a hot dog's meat block, a percentage cap that exists because regulators judge the pork paste worth limiting, just not worth banning. Nothing about the chicken version spreads mad cow. That's true. The ban was disease-specific. But the episode put on the public record exactly what this process is: an industrial recovery of the last tissue off the bone, intense enough that the government drew a species line through it, and the products built on it live at the very bottom of the price ladder for a reason. There's a texture tell too. Paste-based franks are unnaturally smooth and uniform inside, a perfect pink solid with no visible grain, because emulsified recovered tissue has no structure left to show. Cut a premium all-beef frank and a bottom-shelf frank side by side, and the cross-sections tell the whole story without a single label. One looks like finely ground meat, the other looks like set pudding. The label is your entire defense. The words mechanically separated chicken or pork must appear in the ingredient list by law. They're printed on millions of packages that millions of people have never once flipped, and after tonight, you're no longer one of them. One fairness note the paste deserves: using the whole animal is, in principle, the anti-waste ethic this channel praises in stock pots and butcher shops. The objection was never that the last tissue gets used, it's that the recovery is industrial, the disclosure is buried, and the product wears photography of whole muscle meat it doesn't contain. Honesty would cost the category nothing except its costume. The next segment is about the ingredients that get named because the law forced the naming. Number 8. Byproducts and variety meats. Here's a label rule almost nobody knows, and it's one of the quiet triumphs of food regulation. When a hot dog contains organ meats, hearts, livers, tripe, tongue, the label cannot hide them under the word meat. It must declare them, either naming each one, beef hearts, pork livers, right there in the list, or carrying the phrase with variety meats or with meat byproducts prominently near the product name. That's federal law, written precisely because the industry used to bury organs inside the word meat until regulators stopped it generations ago. One of the oldest honesty rules in American food, still quietly doing its job on the bottom shelf. So walk the bottom shelf and read, "Franks made with chicken and pork, with variety meats." The sentence is right there. Hearts and livers announced in plain legal English on packages designed so thoroughly around cartoon mascots and grill flames that the announcement has the invisibility of a terms of service agreement, disclosed and unread, being the oldest partnership in the supermarket. Now, this channel owes you the honest paragraph. Organ meats are not dangerous. They're arguably the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal. Your great-grandparents prized them. Entire cuisines are built on them. Liver is a superfood by any measure. There is nothing wrong with eating hearts. The deception is the usual one: direction and disclosure. Organs cost a fraction of muscle meat. The savings never reach your receipt. And the imagery sells you a steakhouse product, while the fine print files a awful manifest. If the package were proud of its hearts, the hearts would be on the front, the way real charcuterie brands brag about them. Respect the ingredient, question the costume, and if you ever want to see organs sold honestly, look at the charcuterie case, where liver mousse and heart sausages carry proud labels at triple the price. Same organs, opposite disclosure. The difference is entirely whether the maker believes the ingredient is a feature or a secret. Quick pause, hit like and subscribe, because we flip one package America never flips every single week, and the hot dog might be the least flipped package of them all. All set? Because the next ingredient in the frank isn't an animal at all. Number 7. The water, syrup, and phosphate pump. By now you can recite this trick with us, because the hot dog runs the same water program as the bacon, the chicken, and the coconut milk. Federal standards allow franks to carry added water. The classic rule caps fat and added water together at 40% of the frank, up to 30% fat with 10% water, and the industrial recipe uses every legal drop of both. Water is free, fat trimmings are nearly free, hot dogs are sold by the pound, and the pump is the profit. Read that composition honestly. A fully legal commodity frank can be almost half fat and added water before the paste question even starts. Meat in the minority of its own product. Read a mainstream label in order: meat, water, then corn syrup. Yes, corn syrup, sugar. In your hot dog, check your package tonight and there it is. A sweetener quietly standard across the category for decades, because sweetness plus salt is the bliss point formula from the snack aisle. Then sodium phosphates, the water-binding chemistry that locks the added moisture into the emulsion, so the dog plumps and squirts on the grill, instead of leaking honestly in the package. The same phosphates from the plumped chicken file, moonlighting one aisle over. That juicy snap the commercials sell, the bursting, glistening bite, is substantially a phosphate achievement, engineered moisture performing as meat quality, the exact way gums perform as cream in the freezer aisle, and the grill reveals it. Pumped franks split and hiss and weep on the grate, spitting their added water into the flames, while an honest, dense frank browns calmly, the same skillet confession the pumped bacon and the plumped chicken made in their own files. Water always testifies under heat. None of these ingredients is a poison. The sentence you've heard in every file. Phosphates are approved. Corn syrup is corn syrup. The issue is the substitution and the bill. A premium all-beef frank runs beef, water, salt, spices, 5 lines a Frankfurter maker from 1920 would recognize. The budget dog runs a paragraph, and the paragraph is cheaper to build, precisely because less of it is meat. The tell is the ingredient count and one word. Any frank whose second ingredient is water and whose list includes corn syrup and phosphates is a beverage-adjacent meat product. Price it like one. And everything the pump adds, the next segment measures in milligrams. Number 6. The sodium bomb. Here's the number the cookout never discusses, and it's printed on every package in a font nobody reads over charcoal smoke. A single mainstream hot dog carries 400 to 600 milligrams of sodium. Some brands more, which means the standard American 2-dog plate delivers roughly half of an entire day's recommended sodium before the bun. The ketchup, the mustard, the relish, the chips, and the baked beans arrive, each carrying their own payload. A cookout plate routinely clears a full day's sodium in one paper tray, and the people eating 3 dogs at the party are running numbers their doctor would need to sit down for. The bun deserves a mention while we're here. Commercial hot dog buns add another 200 milligrams each plus a spoonful of sugar. The soft, sweet bread engineered to compress silently around the salt bomb. A delivery system so optimized nobody notices they've eaten it. Why so salty? Because salt is doing 3 jobs at once. It's the cure, it's the emulsifier that binds the meat batter. Salt-soluble proteins are literally what holds a frank together. The physics of the product depend on it, which is why truly low-sodium hot dogs barely exist. The recipe collapses without its salt, and it's the flavor system covering for everything the water diluted. Remember, the pump from our last segment made the meat blander, and sodium is the cheapest repair. A food whose structure requires salt, sold as a daily staple to the age groups most sensitive to it, is a category problem no single brand can reformulate away, which is why the honest answer was always frequency, not formulas. Kids deserve their own sentence here. Hot dogs are marketed relentlessly at children. Cartoon packaging, lunchbox positioning, and a single dog can represent a third or more of a small child's daily sodium guidance, a fact that appears on 0 packages next to 0 cartoon mascots. We're not canceling the cookout, the honest dose sentence as always. An occasional frank is a pleasure. The daily lunchbox dog is a habit, with a blood pressure bill that arrives decades late and fully itemized. And the honest brands in our picks run meaningfully lower without losing the food, because when the meat is real, the salt stops having to carry the show. And sodium is only the second most important child safety fact in this video. The most important one is next, and it's the segment to share even if you skip everything else. Number 5. The choking hazard nobody prints. This is the most serious segment this channel has ever recorded in a food file, delivered plainly. The American Academy of Pediatrics has identified the hot dog as the leading food cause of choking deaths in young children, and the reason is geometry. A hot dog is a smooth, compressible cylinder, almost exactly the diameter of a young child's airway. 3/4 of an inch of soft, slick, uniform plug. Bite off a round section, and it can seat itself like a plug. The pediatric literature describes it in exactly those terms. smooth enough to slide, soft enough to compress and conform, wide enough to seal, and pediatricians have publicly argued for years, in journals and in national media, that if you set out to engineer an object to obstruct a child's airway, it would look like a hot dog. The numbers behind that warning, thousands of child choking episodes involving food every year in American emergency rooms, with hot dogs the most frequent single food in the fatal cases, roughly 1 in 6 food choking deaths in young children in the classic pediatric studies, more than candy, more than grapes, more than anything else on the plate, and the peak risk ages, 1 to 3, are exactly the ages the cartoon packaging courts hardest. And here is the industry note this file exists to make. Pediatricians have formally called for warning labels on hot dog packaging and for redesigning the shape itself and the packages at your store, wrapped in cartoons, aimed at the exact age group at risk, carry no warning at all. The same silence we documented on raw flour and raw stuffed chicken, the burden printed nowhere, resting entirely on whichever parent happens to know, and unlike those files, this one has a body count in the pediatric literature going back 40 years. So now you know, and the fix costs nothing. For children under 4, cut every hot dog lengthwise first, then into small half-moons, never coin-shaped rounds. The round slice is the plug shape. Quarter it for toddlers. Keep whole dogs and coin slices away from children under 4 entirely. Teach the kids to sit while eating them, and pass this on to every grandparent and babysitter who feeds your kids. Because this one paragraph is worth more than every other minute of this video combined, and it has been sitting in pediatric journals for decades, while the packaging stayed silent. The next segment returns to a lie you've already met, wearing a new costume at the cookout. Number 4. The uncured hot dog lie. We exposed this fully in the bacon file, so here's the cookout edition, brisk and complete, because the hot dog aisle is actually where this deception earns its biggest money. Half the premium hot dog shelf now says uncured, no nitrates or nitrites added, and the asterisk says, except those naturally occurring in celery powder. And you know the chemistry now. Celery is loaded with nitrate, cultured into nitrite, the identical curing molecule. The dog is cured. The label says uncured because a regulatory category lets vegetable-derived nitrite wear the costume of absence. And when consumer reports tested products, the uncured versions often carried nitrite levels comparable to conventional, sometimes higher, because plant-sourced curing doses sloppier. The customer paying extra to avoid the molecule frequently received more of it, a sentence that should be framed above the natural foods aisle. The hot dog aisle deserves its own sentence on top, because this is where the trick concentrates hardest. The uncured label commands the biggest premiums on Franks. The health-conscious parent, reaching past the regular dogs for the natural package, with the farmhouse font, is the specific target. The segment of the market growing fastest is precisely the one built on this misunderstanding, paying $1 to $2 more per pound for the same molecule with worse quality control. And the regulators who acknowledged the labeling problem years ago are still grinding through the rulemaking, while the shelf stays exactly as misleading as it was. Treat the word uncured on any Frank as decoration. Judge the package on everything else: meat quality, sodium, the species ladder, and if avoiding added nitrite genuinely matters to you, know that the celery root doesn't deliver that. Only the rare, truly uncured refrigerated fresh sausages do. One trick, 3 aisles, the bacon, the deli case, and now the Frank. The costume never changes, only the mascot wearing it. And once you can see it on one package, you can see it on all of them, which is the entire theory of this channel. The next segment is the heavyweight science, handled the way this channel always handles it. Number 3. The Group 1 classification, Cookout Edition. You've heard this from us before, so we'll be efficient and honest. The World Health Organization's Cancer Agency classifies processed meat, and the hot dog is a charter member of the category, as a Group 1 carcinogen. Evidence strength on par with tobacco, and the size of the risk is nothing like tobacco. The same distinction we drew in the bacon file, the benchmark number is roughly an 18% relative increase in colorectal cancer risk at 50 grams of processed meat daily. And 50 grams is approximately 1 hot dog every single day for years. So here's the honest translation for the cookout. A summer of weekend Franks is a pleasure, with a small, real, documented cost. A dog in the lunchbox every day of childhood is a dosing schedule running through the decades when habits set. And the difference between those two patterns is the entire conversation. The classification never needed to ruin the 4th of July. It needed to end the Tuesday dog, and the industry made sure you never heard it clearly enough to make that distinction. Our complaint, as before, isn't that the product exists. It's the information asymmetry. 10 years after the classification, the packaging remains legally silent everywhere on Earth. The cartoon mascots kept smiling. The daily habit marketing kept running. Kids' menus kept defaulting to the one food the global health establishment specifically flagged for daily consumption. School cafeterias serve millions of them a week. And the only warning system in the entire supply chain is whoever in the family watches channels like this one. Eat the cookout Frank with a clear conscience and open eyes. Downgrade the daily dog to an occasional one. And notice, one more time, that every fact in this segment came from public health agencies, and none of it came from a package. The next segment is a manufacturing secret, hiding in the most innocent word on the label. Number 2. Skinless, and the casing nobody imagines. Here's a word you've read 1,000 times without once asking what it means. Skinless, printed like a virtue on 9 out of 10 packages in the case. Skinless compared to what, exactly? A hot dog is ground emulsified meat. It doesn't have skin. Nothing was peeled off an animal here. Here's the answer the industry never volunteers. Traditional Franks are stuffed into natural casings, cleaned sheep or hog intestine, the ancient sausage technology humans have used for thousands of years. It's what makes the legendary snap of a proper Frankfurter, the crack the whole food is named for in deli culture. And it's expensive and slow. Casings must be cleaned, sorted, and stuffed with care. Industrial hot dogs are extruded instead into cellulose casings, plastic-like tubes derived from wood pulp or cotton, cooked and smoked inside them, and then the casings are stripped off by machine and discarded. That's what skinless means. Your hot dog wore a cellulose sleeve through the factory, and had it peeled before packaging. The word describes a manufacturing removal, not a purity, and the trade-off is the texture. Skinless dogs have that uniform, slightly rubbery, snapless bite, because the surface that browns and snaps was thrown away with the sleeve. There's nothing dangerous here. Cellulose casings are standard and safe, and the peeling machines even inspect for stray casing fragments. The point is, the vocabulary judo, a factory process wearing a word that sounds like a feature. Skinless sounds lighter, cleaner, more modern, when it literally describes wearing a wood pulp tube through the smoker, like the word enriched on stripped flour, and the honest alternative announces itself in equally plain language, natural casing, printed proudly on the brands that pay for it, because the snap is audible and they want credit. It's also your single fastest quality tell in the entire case. Natural casing dogs are almost never built on paste. The traditional casing and the traditional recipe travel together. Find those two words, and most of tonight's segments solve themselves. No maker pays for real casings to stuff them with paste. Which brings us to number 1, the ladder, the list, and the 10-second habit. Number 1, buying Franks by the front of the package. Here's the master key, assembled from everything tonight. Check 1, the species ladder. All beef or a named single meat beets, made with beets unnamed Franks. And the word with is always a confession. Check 2, the paste scan. Flip the package and search for mechanically separated. If the phrase appears, you're at the bottom of the ladder regardless of the mascot's confidence. Check 3, the 5-line test. An honest Frank reads like a butcher's sentence. Beef, water, salt, spices, maybe paprika and garlic. 5 lines a Frankfurter maker from 1920 would recognize. The moment the list grows corn syrup, dextrose, phosphates, and a paragraph, you're buying the pump and the chemistry set. Sweetened, plumped, and bound. A beverage wearing a meat costume at meat prices. Check 4, the 2 words that shortcut everything. Natural casing, the traditional recipe's traveling companion. And check 5, the family rules that aren't on any label. Cut dogs lengthwise for small children. Always into half moons and quarters. never coins. And size the habit, like segment 3 taught you. Weekends, not weekdays. The cookout, not the lunchbox. 10 seconds at the shelf, one knife technique at home, and this entire case, the paste, the pump, the costume vocabulary, the silent warnings, loses its power over your cart permanently. And unlike almost any other product we've covered, the Honest version costs barely more. The hot dog upgrade is one of the cheapest wins in this entire series. The front of the package is a cartoon at a cookout. The back is a deposition with a species list. Read the deposition. So what should actually go on the grill? 4 that are actually meat. First, Nathan's famous all-beef franks. The accessible benchmark and proof the Honest recipe survives at national scale. Nathan's, born on Coney Island in 1916 from an actual immigrant Frankfurter maker, Nathan Handwerker, who undercut his old boss with a 5-cent all-beef dog and won the century, still sells all-beef franks with no mechanically separated anything, no byproducts, a short recognizable list, and real garlic and spice presence, at supermarket prices only modestly above the commodity packs. One of the rare cases in this entire series where the famous origin story and the current ingredient list still match. It's a skinless product in its standard form. Natural casing versions exist and are worth hunting for the snap alone. And it's the simplest one-step upgrade in this file. Same store, same shelf, $1 or $2 more, different species ladder entirely. The whole vocabulary lesson from segment 10, solved by one label. Second, an organic grass-fed beef frank, with Applegate's organic beef dog as the widely available example. The certified pick, organic grass-fed beef, no antibiotics ever, a genuinely shorter label, Honest footnotes attached as always. Applegate lives inside Hormel's portfolio, the David inside Goliath pattern from our bacon file, and its uncured labeling is the celery powder chemistry from segment 4, present here like almost everywhere in the natural case, so buy it for the meat quality and the certification, which are real, not for the uncured costume, which isn't. Grass-fed newcomers in the natural case run the same Honest recipe if you want alternatives. Brands built entirely on pasture-raised beef franks with 5-line labels, and all of them roughly have the additive load and the mystery of the commodity dog, at double the price, which, per gram of actual named beef, is a far smaller gap than it looks. Third, natural casing franks from a regional or kosher maker. This is the flavor pick and the tradition pick in one. Every region of America still has them. Sabret in New York, Vienna beef in Chicago, Kogel's in Michigan, Zweigel's in Rochester. The local meat company or kosher brand whose natural casing all-beef franks snap like the Frankfurter's German and Jewish deli ancestors intended. Short labels, real smokehouses in many cases, recipes older than the conglomerates, and the kosher all-beef tradition specifically was built on exactly the standards this video spent 30 minutes teaching. Single species, no byproducts, supervision of the recipe, answering to a higher authority. As the famous ad campaign put it, decades before anyone made channels like this one. Find yours once, ask the deli counter, or search your city's name plus natural casing franks, and the commodity pack never comes home again. Plus your money stays with a regional maker instead of a conglomerate's media budget. The same trade the regional barbecue sauces offered in our last file. And fourth, the butcher shop sausage, the format as proof pick. Walk into a real butcher shop and buy fresh franks or bratwurst made on premises, and run the now familiar reset. You'll see the meat it came from in the case beside it. You can ask what's in it, and watch a person who made it that morning answer in one breath. Beef, pork, salt, spices, no phosphates, no paste, no sleeve, and the price per pound of actual meat routinely beats the premium packaged dogs, because you're not funding a mascot's ad budget. Like the slab bacon, the whole bird, and the tortilleria stack, the butcher's sausage recalibrates you permanently, because once you've eaten a frank that was meat all the way through, the pumped, pasted, phosphated version stops being a hot dog and starts being what it always was, a shape. So there it is, the hot dog file, on the record. A vocabulary ladder wherewith confesses everything, a paste process banned for one species and standard for another, Hearts and livers announced in fine print under cartoon mascots. Water and corn syrup pumped in and locked with phosphates. Half a day's sodium in a single bun. The #1 childhood choking food sold with no warning in the friendliest packaging in the store. The uncured costume, collecting its premium at a third aisle. A Group 1 classification the mascots have ignored for a decade, and a factory sleeve wearing the word Skinless like a virtue. Against all of it, a species check, a paste scan, a 5-line test, 2 words about casing, and 1 knife cut every parent now knows. The hot dog is real American food with real immigrant craft in its history. German Frankfurter makers, Jewish delis, Coney Island stands, honest sausage made by people whose names were on the carts. And everything wrong with the modern package was added later, by an industry optimizing a beloved shape it stopped respecting as food. Paste where meat was, water where fat was, vocabulary where honesty was. Share this with every parent and grandparent at your next cookout. The lengthwise cut alone justifies the click and might matter more than anything else this channel has ever published. And with the friend whose kids eat a dog a day, segment 3 is their conversation to have. Then check our files on the bacon, the chicken, and the barbecue sauce this Frank shares a grill with, because the entire cookout has a record now. New investigations every single week, and the deli meat this Frank grew up next to is already on the list. This has been the Hot Dog File. Read the label, question the mascot, and never let a shape sell you a species.